The audience had tuned in expecting another polite political debate, a rehearsed exchange of talking points that would fade from memory by the next morning. But that wasn't what they got. What unfolded live on national television wasn't a panel. It was a collision. The red light above the main camera blinked to life, and millions of screens across the country lit up with the bold logo, Capitol Roundtable Live. Host Mark Hanley, a veteran of political broadcasting, welcomed viewers with his practiced composure. "Tonight," he said, "we're joined by Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett from Washington, and joining us remotely from her home in Florida, Ivanka Trump." On one side of the screen, Jasmine Crockett, seated upright in the Washington studio, her posture steady, her eyes sharp, a quiet confidence radiating from her. On the other, Ivanka Trump, framed by immaculate white walls and soft lighting in her home, her cream blouse carefully chosen, her expression calm but guarded. The topic, ethics in politics, transparency, and family enterprises. At first glance, it looked routine. Two public figures. A discussion. Polite answers. But from the way Jasmine's hand rested on a thin folder in front of her, and the way Ivanka's fingers tapped lightly on the armrest of her chair, tension hummed in the background like static before a storm. Hanley leaned toward Jasmine. "Congresswoman, you've been outspoken about financial transparency for public officials and their families. Why is this such an urgent issue now?" Jasmine didn't hesitate. "Because the American people are tired of guessing who's pulling the strings. They deserve to know that decisions are being made for their benefit, not for the benefit of someone's overseas business partner." There was no smile in her delivery, no soft edges, a direct shot. Yet she didn't look at Ivanka, not yet. Ivanka's chin tilted upward slightly, a subtle sign she'd taken notice. "Miss Trump," Hanley continued, "you've also spoken on transparency. Do you agree with the Congresswoman's position?" Ivanka smiled faintly, her voice measured. "Transparency is important, Mark, but so is not weaponizing it for political theater." The words were polished, but they didn't land. The camera caught Jasmine finally glancing toward Ivanka's feed, and in that brief moment, the tension in the studio thickened. Hanley pressed forward with broad questions about ethics reform, but it was obvious. Both women were circling each other like boxers, waiting for the first real blow. The wide shot captured Jasmine tapping her folder with a finger. Hanley noticed. "Congresswoman, I see you've brought something with you tonight." Jasmine's lips curved in the faintest smile. "Yes, something that came into my possession just this morning. Something the public deserves to see." On the split screen, Ivanka's shoulders tensed almost imperceptibly. Jasmine opened the folder and pulled out a clipped stack of papers. "These are publicly accessible records, contracts, renewals, filings with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. What makes them relevant is their timing and the connections they show," Ivanka broke in, her voice firm. "Mark, I think we should be careful not to spread misinformation." Jasmine calmly held up one sheet. "This is a renewed licensing agreement between Ivanka Trump's brand and a foreign government agency. It's dated just 4 months ago, right in the middle of high-stakes negotiations between that same government and the United States." The studio fell silent. Ivanka's eyes narrowed slightly. "I have no idea what she's talking about. My brand is separate from political dealings." Jasmine didn't raise her voice. "It's in your name, signed by your company's CEO, who, according to filings, still reports directly to you as principal owner." For a moment, even Hanley looked caught off guard. The crew's headsets buzzed with chatter from the control room. Across the country, viewers leaned forward. Jasmine's calm, almost surgical delivery was more gripping than shouting. Ivanka leaned closer to her camera, voice sharper now. "This is ridiculous. I won't sit here while my family is smeared without facts." Jasmine placed her hands lightly on the desk. "I'm happy to go through every fact, one by one." Hanley tried to reset the pace. "All right, let's step back. Miss Trump, your response?" Ivanka's tone was polished again. My work, my record, my brand, they've been scrutinized for years. Every time it's been shown I've acted within the law. But Jasmine was watching closely, not just listening to the words, but the pauses, the micro-expressions, the tightening of Ivanka's jaw. Hanley turned back. Congresswoman? Jasmine leaned forward. I'm glad Miss Trump says everything she's done is legal, but legality and ethics aren't the same. The question isn't whether laws were broken. It's whether we're comfortable with people in or adjacent to power profiting from relationships that could influence U.S. policy. Ivanka gave a faint laugh. With all due respect, you're assuming facts not in evidence. You're drawing lines that don't exist. Jasmine locked eyes with the monitor. Then help me understand. How does a company with your name secure a multi-million-dollar renewal from a foreign government, while that government is negotiating tariffs with the administration you were part of? Hanley shifted in his chair. Gerald Knox, a panelist and former Senate staffer, tried to interject. But Ivanka cut him off sharply. I'll happily explain my business dealings in a setting that isn't designed for political ambush. Jasmine's faint smile flickered. It's not an ambush if it's public record. Hanley tapped his desk lightly, a cue for the cameras to stay on Jasmine. Congresswoman, are you saying Miss Trump's business benefited directly from political ties? Jasmine didn't blink. I'm saying there's enough here for any reasonable person to ask the question. And I think viewers can see the pattern for themselves. The air tightened. Ivanka leaned forward. I agreed to discuss solutions, job growth, women in business, not to be accused of impropriety by innuendo. Jasmine calmly raised another page. Then you won't mind addressing this. Page 14 of the renewal agreement states your brand will provide exclusive product lines in exchange for tariff adjustments. That's not innuendo. That's in writing? Hanley's eyes widened slightly as he scanned the sheet Jasmine handed him. That's a very specific clause. Gerald Knox leaned in. Miss Trump, is that accurate? Ivanka's smile thinned. Business contracts are complex. A line out of context can be twisted into a narrative. Hanley pressed. So you're not denying the clause exists? Silence. The pause said more than words. Jasmine broke it. This isn't about scoring points. Every time politicians or their families blur lines, ordinary Americans pay the price. She turned back toward Ivanka's image. Do you know how many small businesses have been blocked from those same markets? They don't have your kind of influence. Ivanka's lips curled slightly in frustration. You're making me the scapegoat for systemic issues. That's unfair. Jasmine didn't budge. What's unfair is a system where access is bought with connections. Hanley tried to pivot. Congresswoman, you said these documents came into your possession this morning. How? Jasmine answered calmly. A whistleblower, someone who saw how these deals were structured and believed the public should know. The control room's chatter intensified. Ivanka snapped back. This crosses a line. My family has endured endless attacks. I won't dignify anonymous claims. Jasmine slid the paper across the desk. Then we'll let the public decide if it's baseless. Hanley glanced at the page, eyebrows lifting. We'll need to address this after the break. But when the broadcast returned, the tension hadn't cooled, it had thickened. Hanley's tone was deliberate. We're back on Capitol Roundtable Live. Congresswoman Crockett has presented documents tied to Ivanka Trump's business dealings. Both sides will have the chance to respond. The camera cut to Ivanka, her voice firmer but tight. My company operates globally. Any agreements we have are based on hard work, not political favoritism. Jasmine leaned forward. When someone with political ties benefits from a foreign government during sensitive trade negotiations, it raises questions. Questions that deserve answers, not sound bites. Even Gerald Knox, usually measured, shifted forward. Ivanka, why not release your full business records to put this to bed? Ivanka's smile was tight. Private business owners aren't required to hand over every detail of their operations. This isn't transparency, it's harassment. Jasmine shook her head. It's not harassment to expect powerful people to play by the same rules as everyone else. The air hummed with tension. Viewers could sense it wasn't a debate anymore. It was personal. And then Jasmine reached for another sheet. This document, she said, holding it for the cameras, is a memorandum of understanding between the Trump brand and a government-owned retail conglomerate, dated last December, 2 weeks after private trade talks in Washington. Hanley scanned the page. Preferential tariff adjustments will be considered contingent on exclusive distribution agreements. His voice trailed off. Ivanka cut in. This is a standard business arrangement. There's no wrongdoing here. Jasmine's voice sharpened. Standard for whom? A bakery owner in Fresno couldn't walk into a foreign government office and walk out with this. Ivanka snapped. It's called networking, negotiating. Are you suggesting every entrepreneur should apologize for doing business overseas? Jasmine didn't flinch. No, I'm suggesting when those deals are tied to political connections, we should all be concerned. Gerald Knox leaned forward. It's the timing, Ivanka. 2 weeks after closed-door talks. The optics are undeniable. Ivanka's reply came slower, defensive. The problem is people seeing what they want. Coincidence becomes conspiracy. Jasmine's voice was low, deliberate. Coincidences don't usually come with tariff clauses attached. Hanley's tone sharpened. Congresswoman, are you prepared to say this is a conflict of interest? Jasmine looked directly into the camera. I'm prepared to say this is why we need stricter ethics laws, because no matter how it's spun, this deal benefited from her last name. Silence. Ivanka leaned toward her mic, her voice clipped. I have nothing to hide, but I won't let my work be discredited by half-truths. Jasmine tilted her head. Then let's talk about the other half. She pulled a third document. This customs filing shows the first shipment under this deal cleared port the day after trade talks ended. Hanley's brow furrowed. These are public records? Yes, Jasmine answered. Anyone can access them, if they know where to look. Gerald's voice was quiet but cutting. This doesn't look good. Ivanka inhaled slowly. Optics aren't facts. Every business deal I've made has been above board. Jasmine folded her hands. Then answer a simple question. Did you discuss business with this government while serving in the White House? Ivanka's eyes flickered. I've always acted within the law. Jasmine didn't move. That's not a yes or no. The pause was deafening. Hanley broke it. Miss Trump, do you want to give a direct answer? Ivanka's voice softened, trying to reclaim ground. My integrity speaks for itself. Anyone suggesting otherwise is doing it for politics. Jasmine leaned closer to the mic. Sometimes the truth speaks louder than politics. From the control room, a producer's voice buzzed in Hanley's ear. Fact-checking team confirms. Documents are authentic. Hanley straightened. We're getting word from our fact-checkers. The documents provided by Congresswoman Crockett match public records. They are authentic. The words hit like a gavel. Ivanka blinked twice, forced a restrained smile. Authentic doesn't prove her implication. Jasmine's tone was calm. But it proves they're real, and the public can see them themselves. Hanley added, social media is already erupting. Millions of comments in real time. Gerald leaned forward. This is no longer opinion. Independent confirmation changes everything, Ivanka shot back. Or watchdogs are chasing headlines. Jasmine didn't miss a beat. Or they're doing their job, something too many in power have forgotten. The tension built, each sentence sharper, each silence heavier, and then, in the final minutes, Hanley delivered the update that shifted everything. "The House Oversight Committee," he said, "has acknowledged the broadcast and says they will review the materials presented." For a moment, the air tilted toward Jasmine. Ivanka's polished veneer strained. "I've done nothing wrong. If they want to review, I'll cooperate, as I always have." Jasmine's gaze didn't waver. Cooperation is good. Accountability is better. The studio fell into silence again, the kind that makes producers hold their breath. Hanley finally leaned toward the camera. Tonight was supposed to be a conversation about ethics in politics. Instead, it became something much bigger. And it's only beginning. The theme music swelled as the broadcast ended. But across the country, it was just starting. Clips of Jasmine holding up documents trended instantly. Hashtags flooded social platforms. Jasmine Crockett Calm, Ya Truth on Air, Ivanka documents. Comment sections exploded with debate. News outlets cut into their programming to replay the exchange. And in Washington, the Oversight Committee prepared for a storm that began with one folder, opened live on national television.